the spring of 1961, I took Edith Ellen Hyde out in that car of mine. Took her parking up to Thompson's Road. That was the night I looked up her dress. Yeah. Up until then, I had no idea what life was all about. And we started kissing and kissing until we got halfway good at it. And then she took off her shirt. That was the first nipple I'd had in my mouth since Mom's. But you know, nipples are like bicycles. You know, once you learn, you never forget. Well, finally, we got the windows all steamed up, and I just couldn't wait. I got the car smelling like the smell of a woman, and I just had to see it. Now, Edith Ellen didn't want me to see it. Said it was bad enough me touching it without looking at it. She even tried to scare me, said it looked god-awful. But she couldn't talk me out of it. I was a man on a mission. So, I scooted over, and I scrunched down like this, and Edith Ellen lifted up her skirt, and I lit a match like that, and I looked at that damn thing. And you know, you wonder what the first explorers felt. The first explorers that climbed up over that hill and saw spread out before it in all its God's glory the Grand Canyon. Well, that's what I felt the night Edith Ellen Hyde lifted up her dress and said, "Here it is." I looked at that thing and it was awe-inspiring. I felt like Adam. I felt like the man that discovered the Grand Canyon. Yes, I have tricks in my pocket. I have things up my sleeve. But I am the opposite of a stage magician. He gives you illusion, has the appearance of truth. I give you truth in the pleasant disguise of illusion. To begin with, I turn back time. I reverse it to that quaint period, the 1930s, when the huge middle class of America was matriculating in a school for the blind. Their eyes had failed them, or they had failed their eyes, and so they were having their fingers pressed forcibly down on the fiery braille alphabet of a dissolving economy. In Spain, there was revolution. Here, there were disturbances of labor, sometimes pretty violent in otherwise peaceful cities such as Chicago, Cleveland, and St. Louis. This is the social background of the play. The play is memory. Being a memory play, it is dimly lighted, it is sentimental, it is not realistic. In memory, everything seems to happen to music. Now, I am the narrator of the play and also a character in it. The other characters are my mother, Amanda, my sister, Laura, and a gentleman caller who appears in the final scenes. He is the most realistic character in the play, being an emissary from a world of reality that we were somehow set apart from. Now here it is, Willie. You know why I had no address for 3 months? I sold a suit in Kansas City and I was jailed. I stole myself out of every good job since high school. And I never got anywhere because you blew me so full of hot air I could never stand taking orders from anybody. That's whose fault it is. It's a goddamn time you heard that. I had to be boss big shot in 2 weeks, and I'm through with it. Willie, I'm through with it. I ran down 11 flights with a pen in my hand today, and suddenly I stopped. You hear me? And in the middle of that office building, do you hear this? I stopped in the middle of that building and I saw the sky. I saw the things that I love in the world, the work and the food and the time to sit and smoke. And I looked at the pen and said to myself, what the hell am I grabbing this for? Why am I trying to become what I don't want to be? What am I doing in an office making a contemptuous begging fool of myself when all I want is out there waiting for me the minute I say I know who I am? I always thought of myself as a good Nazi. In those days, we all needed to believe in something. We once saw ourselves as the Holy Roman Empire, feared, we thought, throughout the world. We once marched through Europe in grand majesty. A little too proud, perhaps. So many others thought to destroy us, and eventually did. My father never recovered from the humiliation he felt when the emperor surrendered in 1918. Better death by mustard gas, he said, than the slow death he suffered later, his mind becoming twisted with rage before the end. I saw Hitler as our salvation. A man with ideas. A man who could bring back to the fatherland a pride my father saw ooze away. I put on the uniform on the armband because it made me feel important. As if I belonged once more to a noble institution. Now, I did not hate the Jews the way many others around me did, though I admit deep down I believed, as my father had, that the Jews had caused us to lose the Great War. I don't suppose you've ever been in love with a midget weighing 39 pounds. Down in Gallup 20 years ago, a fellow by the name of Rufus Jenkins came to town with 6 white horses and 2 black ones. Said he wanted a man to break the horses for him because his left leg was wood and he couldn't do it. Had a meeting at Parker's Mercantile Store and finally came to blows with me and Henry Walpole. Bashed his head with a brass cuspidor and ran away to Mexico. But he didn't die. I couldn't speak a word. Took up with a cattle breeder named Diego. He spoke the language better than you and me. Said, your job, Murph, is to feed them prize bulls. I said, fine, what'll I feed them? He said, hay, lettuce, salt, beer, and aspirin. Came to blows 2 days later over an accordion he claimed I stole. I had borrowed it. Now, during the fight, I busted it over his head and ruined one of the finest accordions I ever saw. Grabbed a horse and rode back across the border, Texas. Got to talking with a fellow who looked honest. Turned out to be a ranger who was looking for me. But I was talking about a 39-pound midget. That night, I left my father's house forever. I took the first right and the second left, and this time went as far as California. Peggy and I visited him once or twice, and then he came to California to visit us and had a fever and swollen ankles. We put him in the hospital, and he never left. The reason we gave, in which he could accept for not leaving, the swollen ankles. But the real reason, the arteries were hardening. And he gradually, over several years, slipped into complete and speechless senility, with all of his life centered in his burning eyes. When I would visit him, we would sit and look at each other. His eyes would mist over and his nostrils would pinch with emotion. But I could never learn what the emotion was, anger or love or regret. One day, sitting in his wheelchair and staring without comprehension at television, he died alone.